My name is Melissa Thorne, and joining me today is Sandra Dutterer. Today's date is May 18th, 2019. Thank you, Sandy, for being with me today and sharing your memories.
You're welcome.
We are doing this history project for Mount Airy's 125th year that we've been established in 1894, so it's a very exciting year, and we're going to delve right into it. So describe when you came to Mount Airy and what your earliest memory of town is.
Okay. I was born in Frederick, so I came many years, 1947, when my parents moved here. My grandparents were here. My grandfather had been a mail carrier, and then when he retired, he worked part-time for one of the 5 grocery stores downtown. My dad worked for Warfield Chevrolet, was the building that just recently burned down. And my mom worked downtown for a while. So I've been here all that time, went through school here. And
what was it like as a child?
Well, till I was 12, I lived in town, and we played outside all the time, you know. And from school on Tuesdays, we could walk down to Brownies. We walked from the elementary school down to the Calvary Church and walk through town. You might stop at Myers Drugstore and get ice cream cone and continue walking. We had various Girl Scout leaders. Some were mothers of our girls, and some were wives of the ministers. Just mainly playing outside, playing dolls, playing with the boys.
Where did you go for your groceries? You said there was a lot downtown you could find.
Yes, this is in like what I remember as a child, the 50s and early 60s, and there were 5 grocery stores downtown, and this was one at one time, and then the library. And you went to different ones for different things, whoever had the sale. And some of the stores, you went down the aisles and got your own stuff. Where Mount Airy Auto Parts was the groceteria before it moved and became Food Right and Food Lion. And they had one checkout place. You took your basket up there, and they took the stuff out for you. And there were others downtown, and some of you might buy your meat here or there. Of course, we've always had Wagner's meat locker, and you would get your meat there.
Do you remember the Friday night drawing?
Yes. You would shop and get a coupon for what you spent, and it would go in this big drum. You would go up to, I forget what's there now. It was Potomac Edison then. It's beside Regal's shopping. And that they would do the drum, and everybody would fill the street. The roads were closed, and it was more of a social gathering, and everybody would see each other, and you hope you won. If you didn't, then you were okay.
Did your family ever win? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I was so busy talking to the other people. I'm sure we did at some time, because it was every Friday night. Hopefully the odds were you could win.
Yes. So, which street did you grow up on? You said you were in town?
Yes, we were up by Wildwood Park. It was called Montgomery Avenue.
Okay.
And I lived there till I was 12, and then my parents, I had a brother, and then I had a baby sister, so we needed a bigger house, and we built on Boatler Road, which is the road towards Snell's. When I moved there, it was dirt. Then it became gravel road. Then it became tar and chip. And now we're paved, and we even have lines. It depended on how many houses were there, and also depended how many houses were there if the school bus came.
Okay, so when the school bus didn't, it was up to you to...
Your parents would get you there.
Get you there somehow. Do you remember any stories about events and gatherings that used to occur here in town that you would attend other than the Friday night drawing?
We always had a Halloween parade.
Oh.
We'd go from the elementary school to the town parking lot. Of course, there was always the carnival. And in elementary school, we came down and painted the windows of the stores with designs, and I don't remember how they picked it, whether it was the kid did the best design one, but you'd get out in the afternoon. And I don't remember the teacher coming with us. I remember it might be 5 or 6 of us, but we'd walk down from the elementary school. Of course, all the store people knew you, so you were, watched out for and taken care of, but that was a big thing. So,
where was the carnival held most of the time?
I remember early on, it was in Wildwood Park. and you would be in the Ferris wheel and go up, and you thought you were going to hit a tree because there's a lot of tall trees up there.
There are.
And I don't remember the year it moved down to the carnival grounds. I think it was even before the bypass.
So they had similar things to what the carnival has now as far as entertainment. They had the Ferris wheel was part of it, you said.
Oh, the rides, yeah, they didn't, of course, have all these big rides. You might have the Ferris wheel and the merry-go-round and the swings. I remember Tubs of Fun. And there were buildings. My grandmother was, what was that called? Prudence Lodge. And they had a stand where they sold stuff that you might find at the 5 and 10 cent store and candy and stuff like that. And of course, at first the drinks were out in bottles. You know, they would do that, and then it was the fountain stuff, not like the cans today. And it was just a big community. And I remember, I think I was 12 or 13 and helping at the Lions Carnival. I sold tickets. You probably couldn't have a 12-year-old in the booth today selling tickets. But.
I don't think so either. Without an adult present.
Right, and this was even before community service hours, so you didn't have to do that. So.
What's the biggest change that you've seen over the years?
Oh my goodness.
For the town?
The farmland developed into developments, stoplights. When I was growing up, well, we called it Ridgeville. Main Street and 144, there was a flashing light. We had no stoplights. You would have to stop at the railroad tracks for the train coming through if it was coming through at the time you were going through town. But it's mostly the traffic and the people. And
not to jump back, but did they have annual parades through town each year?
Yes.
Did the firemen's parade happen annually?
Yes, and this was back, it took forever because each company brought fire trucks. There were majorette groups. Then it got to, they had to have the majorette competition on Saturdays because it took so long for the parade, and they had to stop in front of the judges and do their routines, and it got really, really late, so they moved the majorette competitions to Saturdays.
Okay.
And then we just had to pray, but it's a lot more fire trucks and engines than they are now.
And can you tell me about any town resident that you might have looked up to, or can remember anybody, maybe a shop owner, or any story from?
Well, mostly you looked up to your teachers.
Okay.
We knew the shop owners, and a lot of them were parents of friends of mine, so we were all friends.
Tell me a little bit more about going to school in Mount Airy.
You're talking to dark ages here. So, well, to 8th grade, you went, the building that's on Main Street, went to 8th grade. And 7th and 8th grade was in the top part of the building, and there was a railing, I guess, and you could look down and see, oh, we're up high now, we're 7th and 8th graders. And then in 9th grade, you got to go to the high school, which was the building they tore down, because it was out-of-date middle school. But you went there from 9th grade to 12th grade. There was a little gravel parking lot right off of Watersville Road where, if you were lucky enough to have a car, which I did. My grandfather I think it was 1964, got a new Chevrolet, and he gave me his 1951 Chevy, so I got to drive to school.
And you got to overlook the whole school.
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't have to walk to school before you got a car? Did the bus pick you up?
When we lived in town, we were not quite a mile from school, so yes, we walked some. That was like from near Wildwood Park to the elementary school. And then there was enough people, we got a town bus. I think they had to pay for that, but then eventually the county got a bus.
Where were the best spots to hang out as a kid or a teenager or a young adult?
I don't know. Well, when you could drive, you went to Baltimore to Champ's Restaurant. I don't remember hanging. We just got together with friends. Of course, you hung out at the carnival, and there was a building when it moved to the carnival grounds where it is now, and there was a building that's now become the reception hall. But we had dances in there, and it was, you'd go and have. But that was 1 week during the summer. That wasn't all the time.
And then as an adult, where did you find, going out to restaurants?
Well, there was one downtown. There was always Old Town. Gosh, there weren't that many. You would either go to Frederick or Westminster, and sometimes venture down. It was Route 40 then, not 70, to towards Baltimore.
The old National Pike, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, the old National Pike is 2 lanes. Route 40 was 4.
Actually, that's 144, I guess.
Oh, that's one. Yeah, that's
describing.
one.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
Have you belonged to any organizations locally?
Yes, I'm with a sorority group, Beta Sigma Phi, and I remember as a senior in high school, the group was active in Mount Airy then, and they would have the senior girls over for a tea. And it was interesting then to, when I came back from college, it was still here, so, and I've been in it ever since. There's a smaller group of us now, but we still get together. We used to meet twice a month, now we meet once a month, and it's a service group and a cultural group. We do programs. And
Okay.
I was active in Calvary Church. Let's see, as a kid, I did Girl Scouts. Did the Cub Scouts with my son. Other organizations. Now I do book club now, but they didn't have one of those growing up. So.
Where did you go to school? You said we went off to school for college.
Oh, yes. Well, I started at Frostburg, but then I got married young and I went 2 years to the University of Delaware. And this was back in the time when we thought my husband was going to have to be drafted. So we moved back home and I finished at Towson. So then I started my teaching career in Cecil County. And we moved back here in '72. And I taught at Mount Airy and I worked at St. James Preschool. And then I moved to Winfield Elementary, where I did 5th grade for 26 years.
So what brought you back to Mount Airy? You started here and then?
Family, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband at that time got a job near here, so we decided we'll move back and see if this is where we want to stay. And we've always stayed. My kids went to the Mount Airy schools, and they both went to Towson. And
so what was it like raising your kids in Mount Airy?
it was different. The times changed. The schools were a little different. I had some of the same teachers my parents had. Then my kids had a few that I had, but not the ones my mom had. It was just different to see the curriculum and after-school activities and the sports. Luckily, my kids were in sports when they weren't all on Sundays. Your kids did Sunday school and church, which I think we've gotten away from some.
Mm-hmm. And did they participate in any of the, I guess, MEA or Four County Lions Club, or I mean the other sports organization?
They played
Four County Little
soccer.
League.
Yes, I think most kids in Mount Airy played soccer or basketball with Denny Ahalt.
I think that's pretty true.
Yes. So, both my kids did soccer and basketball. My son didn't do. Well, they didn't have rec football then. He didn't do baseball. Yeah, but they had, and then they played in high school. So that.
Was there a park that you frequently visited?
Not around town. You would go up to Catoctin or.
Okay.
No, Piney, I think. No, it wasn't when I was a kid. When my kids were little, you could do Piney.
That's right, Piney Run out
Yes,
in Sykesville.
Piney Run.
If you had to describe Mount Airy to someone who has never been to our town, what would you say?
A small town with growing pains. I don't know. I always enjoy hearing people say, "Oh yeah, I moved to Mount Airy. It was a small town, and but things have changed so." And you just think, well, it was smaller before everybody moved here, but. I don't know. I think we're very friendly. I think we look out for each other. We're trying to build community with the Main Street Association, and they're doing like the chili cook-offs and all these events where they close the street and have people come and do stuff. So I think it's a very friendly place to live. We have a lot of sports for kids. I still think people are caring. we look out for each other. I think it's a nice place to raise kids.
And where would you recommend that they must visit when they're here?
Well, you need to go in Ben Hughes and see all the wonderful stuff he has in there. Now we have some others. We have, what's the new one? It was Hipsley Collection. I don't know.
Mount Airy Commons.
Mount Airy Commons. And the printing lady has her place.
Yes, SK Printing.
Yes, she has her little. What do you need to visit? Oh, the museum.
Yes.
Our wonderful museum, yes.
And that just opened in the historic train station.
Yes.
And I'm trying to think, would you have seen any of the passenger cars that have gone out when you were growing up?
No. Now, I remember my mother, well, both my parents rode the passenger train to Baltimore to work. But that was before me. I remember waiting for the freight trains that went on and on and on. But I don't remember seeing passenger cars.
And that would have been a long commute for them compared to everybody else probably working locally.
Yeah, but I think it was quicker and more advantageous than driving to Baltimore at that time. So.
Sure. So how do you think that the town will change in the next 10 years or 50 years even?
Well, plans are to demolish, I guess is called the term, the Flatiron Building, which I think is a very historical, unique building, and I would hate to see that. So, and there's, yes, we do need a community center. I think we need a place for kids to go. I don't know the solution to all that. I think there's big changes for town and cutting off streets and things that I'm not sure need. If you move to a small town because of its flavor, then you don't come in and, not make it that small town anymore. So I don't know the answer to that, but I think there'll be changes in building some of the probably businesses. I hope the train shop stays in and our museum. I just hope, we can keep up with that, and we have a lot of exhibits now. If we can change them and have different ones at different times, have people come back rather than. And Larry Ballard is working on the train display, which is wonderful, and the time he's putting in that. So,
describe the train display and what he's doing with that.
I think it's 3 or 4 tracks and trains going back and forth, but he's doing the scenery as to what Mount Airy was. There's a mill, and of course he has the train station. There'll be where the canning factory was, just as Mount Airy used to be at the heyday of the train. And he's got little trees. People are about that big, and you just think, and dogs, there's dogs and cats and horses, and it's amazing.
And Mount Airy had a lot of manufacturing.
Yes.
Back in the day.
Our canning factory at one time was the biggest in the world. And during the summer it employed up to 250 people because they used the wives and the school children too, and the rest of the time. After that, maybe 5 to 20 people, but not as much. And we had the pants factory and the hatchery. That was one of the biggest ones at the time. Of course, the sanitarium or sanatorium we had. There was an interesting thing on that. And the railroad came through. We had our own bottling plant, and Nicola, and not Nicola, Nickel. Yeah, Nickel soda. And yeah, we had a lot of industry.
To be able to go back and see that again, that's my dream.
Yeah.
So I get a sense that your hopes for the town, I guess, moving forward with the inevitable changes that always happen, your hope is that we keep our small town charm. And do you have any other hopes for the town as we grow and experience change over the years?
No, keep it small town and have events and things for people to do, and just have the interest of the people at heart, and the future children, and I mean the children for their future, and that's it.
Yep. Well, thank you, Sandy, so much for coming here today and interviewing. I really appreciate your time and learning a lot about your experience in Mount Airy.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.